Imagine carrying a heavy backpack, but instead of tools, it's full of expectations, judgments, and endless explanations. Every step you take, you stop to unzip that bag and prove your worth to someone else. Now, imagine dropping that bag. Every one of us, at some point in life, faces a pivotal moment, a moment where we have to decide whether our worth will be determined by ourselves or by the opinions of others. It's not an easy decision. Since childhood, we're conditioned to seek approval, a smile from a parent when we take our first steps, applause when we perform well in school, cheers when we win on the field. Slowly, almost invisibly, we start weaving our sense of self around how others see us. But there's a fundamental truth that often gets buried beneath layers of expectations. Self-worth cannot be handed to you by anyone else. It is something you must discover and cultivate from within. If you spend your life chasing applause, you will live in constant fear of its absence. If you tether your value to external validation, every criticism will feel like a personal attack, and every moment without praise will feel like a failure. True self-worth is internal. It comes from knowing who you are, what you believe, and what you stand for, even when nobody is clapping. It's built in the quiet moments when you look in the mirror and see someone you respect, someone you are proud of, not because the world told you to be proud, but because you know the journey you have taken and the challenges you have overcome. When you understand this, you begin to realize that seeking approval is a game you can never win. Approval is a moving target. Some days, you'll hit it. Other days, no matter how hard you try, you'll miss. Worse still, the standards by which people judge you are inconsistent and unpredictable. One day you're praised for being bold. The next, you're criticized for being reckless. One day you're celebrated for speaking up. The next, you're chastised for being too outspoken. You will never be able to control how the world sees you. You can only control how you see yourself. Building your self-worth from within frees you from the exhausting cycle of constant performance. It allows you to act based on your values rather than reactions to others' opinions. You stop living your life like a court case, constantly presenting evidence and awaiting a verdict. And yet, so many of us spend years, even decades, trying to explain ourselves to the world. Why? Because somewhere along the way, we internalized a dangerous lie, the lie that if people don't understand us, if they don't agree with us, then we must be wrong. That lie breeds insecurity, and insecurity fuels the endless explanations. When you feel unsure of yourself, you start to believe that others hold the keys to your identity. You over-explain your dreams, justify your choices, defend your desires. Every conversation becomes a negotiation, every decision a trial. You hand your story over to strangers, hoping they will edit it kindly. But explaining yourself repeatedly is not a reflection of clarity, it's a symptom of doubt. It reveals an internal struggle, a subtle apology for daring to be different, daring to choose a path that others might not understand. Instead of standing firm in your convictions, you invite others to validate them, as if their approval can grant you permission to live authentically. The problem is, the more you explain, the less powerful you become. You dilute your message, weaken your resolve, and erode your confidence. Each explanation is like a small surrender, a tiny signal to your own mind that says, maybe they know better. Maybe I'm wrong to feel this way. Maybe I'm wrong to be myself. Confidence isn't loud. It doesn't beg to be understood. True confidence stands quietly in the room, unmoved by misunderstanding or disagreement. It knows that explanation is often unnecessary because authenticity speaks for itself. The irony is, the people who make the greatest impact in the world are rarely the ones who spent their time explaining themselves. They are the ones who lived their truth so fully, so unapologetically, that their actions became the explanation. They moved forward even when misunderstood. They stayed committed even when judged. They allowed their results to speak louder than any justification ever could. If you find yourself constantly explaining your dreams, your goals, your choices, maybe it's not because others don't understand. Maybe it's because you haven't yet fully owned them yourself. Maybe you're looking for external permission because you haven't given yourself internal permission. Owning your life doesn't mean you never listen to feedback, or learn from others. It simply means that you are the ultimate authority on your own worth. You take advice as information, not as validation. You adjust your strategies without questioning your value. You move through the world with the quiet understanding that you are enough. Not because you are perfect, but because you are real. The more you cultivate that internal security, the less you will feel the need to explain. Your actions, your presence, your consistency will become the message. You will attract the right people, the ones who don't need a detailed defense of your every move to stand by you. You will repel those who seek to diminish you, and you will be okay with that. There is incredible freedom in realizing that you don't owe anyone an explanation for being who you are. Freedom to create without hesitation. Freedom to dream without compromise. Freedom to live without apology. You will be misunderstood. You will be judged. You will be criticized. These are not signs that you are on the wrong path. They are signs that you are carving out your own. They are signs that you are alive, fully participating in the human experience, and daring to be seen, truly seen, without the crutches of endless explanations. As you grow, as you evolve, you will find that the desire to explain yourself diminishes. You no longer need every person to see you the way you see yourself. You understand that some won't. You accept that some can't, and you recognize that their understanding is not a requirement for your journey to continue. Self-worth is not a product of public opinion. It is a quiet, steady flame that burns inside you, regardless of how the winds of external validation may blow. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you stop negotiating your worth. The moment you stop justifying your existence, you begin truly living it. That moment is when you rise. We spend so much of our lives trying to earn freedom. We chase after success, recognition, wealth, thinking that when we finally achieve enough, we will feel free. We imagine that freedom is something waiting for us at the end of hard work, something external we must conquer. But freedom, real freedom, doesn't come from achievement. It doesn't arrive once the world approves of us. Freedom begins much closer to home. It begins the moment we accept ourselves. Self-acceptance is not an act of arrogance. It's not about believing you are better than others or above criticism. It's about acknowledging the simple truth that you are enough, as you are, imperfections and all. Acceptance doesn't mean you stop striving or growing. It means you stop fighting yourself along the way. It means you understand that growth stems from a place of love, not from a place of punishment. Without self-acceptance, every success feels hollow. Every achievement becomes just another desperate attempt to fill a void that cannot be filled from the outside. You win awards and wonder why you still feel empty. You receive praise and wonder why it doesn't silence the doubts. That's because the applause outside will never drown out the criticism you carry inside. The real battle is not with the world, it's with yourself. If you cannot stand alone in a room, comfortable in your own presence, no amount of admiration will ever be enough. The external can only amplify what already exists within. If you are grounded in self-acceptance, the applause will feel like an echo of the truth you already believe. If you are filled with self-rejection, the same applause will feel like a lie, something you're afraid you don't deserve. Freedom is the ability to walk into any situation and not lose yourself. It's the ability to hear criticism and not crumble, to hear praise and not become addicted. It's the quiet power of knowing who you are and being unwilling to trade that identity for approval, attention, or acceptance from others. That kind of freedom can only come from within. It can only be born from self-acceptance. Many people misunderstand acceptance as complacency. They fear that if they accept themselves, they will stop striving for more. But real acceptance isn't about settling, it's about building. When you accept yourself, you create a solid foundation. You aren't building your life on shifting sands of insecurity and fear. You are building it on the unshakable ground of worthiness. You strive not because you are broken and need fixing, but because you are worthy of growth and capable of evolution. And where does this journey toward self-acceptance truly deepen? In solitude. In a world constantly buzzing with noise, finding solitude has become an act of courage. We are surrounded by voices telling us who to be, what to want, where to go. We are encouraged to stay busy, to stay distracted, to stay connected to everyone but ourselves. But clarity is not found in the crowd. Clarity is found in the quiet. Solitude is where you meet yourself without interruption. It's where the masks fall away, the expectations fade, and the real conversations begin. In solitude, you cannot hide behind performance. There's no audience to impress, no one to explain yourself to. It's just you and your thoughts, your fears, your dreams. Some people fear solitude because they are afraid of what they might find. They fear facing the doubts, the insecurities, the truths they have buried under layers of activity and noise. But avoiding solitude doesn't erase those fears, it only allows them to fester. Only by facing them directly can you begin to heal, to understand, and to grow. In solitude, you gain the kind of clarity that cannot be taught, only discovered. You begin to see what truly matters to you, what you actually want rather than what you have been told to want. You start to separate your own voice from the voices of others. You recognize the difference between goals that ignite your spirit and goals that exhaust it. Clarity is power. When you are clear about who you are and what you want, decisions become easier. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop living reactively, responding to every opinion and expectation thrown your way. You start living intentionally, purposefully moving forward based on your own internal compass. The irony is, the more time you spend alone, the stronger you become when you rejoin the world. Solitude is not about withdrawing from life. It's about preparing for it. It's about building the inner strength required to engage with others authentically without losing yourself in the process. It's about developing the resilience to stand firm when the inevitable storms come. True leaders, true innovators, true changemakers spend time in solitude. They take time to reflect, to think deeply, to reconnect with their purpose. They understand that leading others requires first leading yourself. They know that clarity within creates clarity without. If you look at any great achievement, any powerful movement, any lasting change, you will find that it was born not in the noise of the crowd, but in the quiet of reflection. It was born when someone sat alone, wrestled with big questions, and dared to trust the answers that rose from within. We often think of solitude as a luxury, something we will enjoy someday when life slows down. But solitude is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's not something you fit in when you have time. It's something you make time for. It's an essential part of growth, just as rest is an essential part of physical training. Without solitude, you burn out. Without solitude, you lose sight of your own journey. The good news is, solitude doesn't require hours of meditation in a distant mountain cabin. It can be found in small moments: a walk without your phone, a few minutes of quiet in the morning before the world wakes up, a drive with no music, just your thoughts for company. It's less about the quantity of time and more about the quality of attention. It's about creating spaces where you can hear your own voice again. Freedom and clarity are not destinations you stumble upon by accident. They are cultivated through conscious choice. They are nurtured through self-acceptance and solitude. They are built in the moments when you choose to turn inward instead of outward, to listen rather than broadcast, to be rather than perform. When you accept yourself fully, you no longer need to seek freedom from the world. You realize you were free all along. When you embrace solitude, you no longer fear being alone. You realize you were never truly alone because you always had yourself. The greatest gift you can give yourself is the time and permission to know who you really are. From that foundation, everything else, your work, your relationships, your dreams, can grow with strength and authenticity. Freedom begins inside. Clarity grows in silence. And from those two places, everything else follows. Growth is often celebrated as an upward journey, a steady climb, a constant accumulation of new skills, new knowledge, new experiences. But what is rarely talked about is the uncomfortable truth that growth just as often requires letting go. Letting go of beliefs that once served you but now limit you. Letting go of relationships that once nurtured you but now drain you. Letting go of parts of yourself that feel familiar but are no longer aligned with who you are becoming. Letting go feels counterintuitive because we are conditioned to believe that more is better. We measure success by what we can gather, what we can hold on to. But true growth demands that we travel light. It asks us to release what is heavy, what is outdated, what no longer fits the person we are evolving into. Holding on out of habit, fear, or comfort is not loyalty, it is self-betrayal. The most difficult part of letting go is not the loss itself, but the identity that loss challenges. You may have spent years defining yourself by a certain career, a certain relationship, a certain dream. Letting go of it feels like losing a part of yourself. And in a way, you are. You are shedding an old skin, breaking free from an old story, stepping away from a version of yourself that was once right but no longer is. Growth is not about rejecting your past. It's about honoring it enough to move forward. It's about recognizing that the very things that got you here might not be the things that take you there. It's about understanding that evolution is not a betrayal of who you were, but a commitment to who you can become. There's a natural grieving that comes with letting go. You will miss what was familiar. You will doubt yourself. You will wonder if you made the right decision. But trust that this discomfort is not a sign you are wrong. It is a sign that you are expanding. Growth lives in the tension between who you were and who you are becoming. That tension is where transformation happens. Letting go also means letting go of the need for universal understanding. Not everyone will see your vision. Not everyone will understand your decisions. Some will question your path. Some will criticize it. Some will walk away entirely. This is one of the hardest parts of growth, realizing that not everyone who started with you is meant to finish with you. But growth is not about dragging everyone along. It's about becoming so deeply aligned with your purpose that you trust whoever is meant to stay will stay. You are not responsible for explaining your evolution to everyone. You are responsible for honoring it. You are not obligated to slow your growth to make others comfortable. You are obligated to live your truth fully, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Growth requires courage, and courage often looks like walking away before you have a clear map of what comes next. Letting go creates space, space for new opportunities, space for new connections, space for the next version of you to take root and grow. But you cannot create that space if your hands are still clinging to what you have outgrown. Growth is not just about stepping forward, it's about releasing what holds you back. Alongside letting go, there is another truth about growth that often goes unnoticed. Your energy is precious. It is not infinite. It is not renewable on demand. Every day you wake up with a limited amount of energy, emotional, mental, physical. How you spend it determines the quality of your life. We live in a culture that glorifies business. Hustle harder, sleep less, do more. But business without direction is just exhaustion. Activity without intention is just noise. The real masters of growth are not the ones who do the most. They are the ones who protect their energy the most fiercely. Every conversation you engage in, every commitment you make, every thought you entertain, they all cost energy. And not every expense is a worthy investment. Some conversations leave you drained, not inspired. Some commitments distract you from your deeper goals rather than advance them. Some thoughts spiral you into doubt and fear instead of fueling courage and clarity. The most profound shift happens when you start seeing your energy as a currency. When you recognize that spending it carelessly leaves you bankrupt for the things that truly matter. Growth demands discernment. It requires asking hard questions. Is this worthy of my energy? Will this move me closer to the person I want to become, or pull me further away? Energy management is not about becoming selfish. It's about becoming strategic. It's about understanding that every yes is a no to something else. Saying yes to endless distractions means saying no to deep work. Saying yes to toxic relationships means saying no to self-respect. Saying yes to pleasing everyone means saying no to honoring yourself. Protecting your energy also means protecting your environment. Growth cannot thrive in a field full of weeds. If you are surrounded by constant negativity, relentless drama, or endless criticism, no amount of willpower will be enough to keep your spirit strong. You need to cultivate environments, physical, emotional, and mental, that nourish you, that challenge you, that stretch you without breaking you. Part of this protection involves boundaries. Clear, compassionate boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They are doors that guide the right people in and the wrong influences out. Setting boundaries is not about rejecting others. It is about respecting yourself. It is about recognizing that your energy is too precious to be given away freely to everyone who demands it. The world will always offer you 1,000 things to worry about, fight for, chase after. But growth requires focus. It requires choosing over and over again what deserves your energy and what does not. It requires saying no more often than you say yes. It requires trusting that in protecting your energy, you are protecting your ability to grow, to serve, and to make a real impact. Letting go and protecting your energy are not acts of selfishness or weakness. They are acts of maturity. They are signs that you have shifted from surviving to thriving. They are signals that you are no longer living reactively, at the mercy of every demand and distraction, but proactively, with purpose and vision. Growth is not just about the climb. It's about the shedding. It's about the clearing. It's about the fierce, tender work of releasing what no longer serves you so that you have the strength and clarity to embrace what does. And the most beautiful part is, the more you let go, the lighter you become. The more you protect your energy, the more powerful you feel. You begin to realize that true growth is not about adding more layers to yourself. It is about peeling them back until only the strongest, most authentic parts remain. In the end, growth is not just about where you are going. It is about who you are becoming on the way there. And who you become is shaped not just by what you pursue, but by what you are willing to release, by what you are willing to protect. One of the hardest lessons to learn on the path of growth is that not everyone deserves access to your journey. We are raised to believe that loyalty means inclusion, that we owe every person a front row seat to our lives simply because they were there at the beginning. But growth has a way of revealing that access must be earned, not assumed. Your journey is sacred. It is not a public broadcast. It is a carefully curated space where only those who uplift, challenge, and believe in your evolution should be allowed to stay. It is natural to want to take everyone with you, to believe that every friend, every colleague, every family member will understand and support your transformation. But the reality is, some people were only meant to know a version of you that no longer exists, and holding on to them out of guilt or obligation does not honor them, it only dishonors yourself. Not everyone can see your vision because it wasn't given to them. It was given to you. Your dreams are your responsibility, not a group project that requires everyone's approval. Some will misunderstand your growth. Some will resist it because it challenges their own comfort zones. Some will try to hold you to old definitions of who you were because it makes them feel safer. Growth can threaten those who are unwilling to grow themselves. It can create distance where there was once connection, not because you have become selfish, but because you have become clear. Part of maturity is understanding that love does not always mean proximity. You can love people from afar. You can wish them well without inviting them into the delicate spaces where your dreams are still taking root. You can honor the role they played in your past without granting them authority over your future. Your energy, your focus, your vulnerability. These are privileges, not entitlements. They should be offered with discernment, entrusted to those who have shown themselves to be safe, supportive, and aligned with your values. You owe it to yourself to protect the sacredness of your journey, even if it means walking parts of the path alone. Silence, in this process, becomes one of your greatest tools. There is power in knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet. Not every step of your journey needs to be announced. Not every decision requires a justification. Not every shift demands an explanation. Sometimes, silence says more than words ever could. We often feel pressured to explain ourselves, to make others comfortable with our choices, to secure their approval before we move forward. But explanation can become a trap. It can tether you to the need for validation, distracting you from the quiet, knowing inside that already confirms your path. The people who are truly meant for you will not need endless explanations. They will sense your authenticity. They will trust your evolution. They will cheer you on even when they don't fully understand. Silence is not avoidance. It is mastery. It is the discipline of allowing your actions, your growth, your results to speak on your behalf. It is the wisdom of recognizing that arguments rarely change minds, but example often does. It is the courage to let people wonder, to let them project their stories onto you, while you stay anchored in your own. There is a deep peace that comes from no longer feeling the need to be understood by everyone. There is a freedom that comes from allowing yourself to evolve without holding press conferences about every step. There is a strength that grows when you realize your life's work is not to explain your journey, but to live it so fully, so boldly that it needs no defense. Silence protects your energy. It guards your vision. It honors the sacred work happening inside you. Growth is noisy on the inside, full of doubt, discovery, and daring. It doesn't need the added noise of external skepticism or unsolicited opinions. Silence creates space for you to hear your own voice, to follow your own instincts, to trust your own timing. Not everyone deserves access to your journey, and not every part of your journey needs explanation. Both truths are essential for deep, lasting growth. Both truths free you to move with confidence rather than consensus. They remind you that the real work is not to convince others of your worth, but to continue becoming someone you are proud to be. Peace is often mistaken for passivity. In a world that moves fast and praises loudness, a calm presence can be confusing to those still caught up in the noise. When you find peace within yourself, it can feel unnatural not to explain it. It can feel as though you owe the world a reason for why you are no longer running at their pace, why you are no longer fueled by the same fears, why you are no longer interested in the battles you once fought. But you do not owe anyone an explanation for your peace. Peace is not something that demands justification. It is something that is lived quietly and powerfully. True peace comes when you no longer measure your worth by external markers, when you no longer feel the need to compete, prove, or convince. It is an inner sanctuary that does not need to be broadcast, only protected. There will be those who misinterpret your peace as indifference, those who view your calm as a lack of ambition or your silence as weakness. That is not your burden to carry. People see others through the lens of their own unrest. If they are uncomfortable with your calm, it is because it reminds them of the noise they have not yet escaped. Your peace is not a commentary on anyone else's choices. It is simply your own hard-won ground, and it requires no defense. The temptation to explain often arises from a place of wanting to be understood. We want others to see the work we have done, the mountains we have climbed, the storms we have weathered. But true peace is content to be misunderstood. It knows that explanation does not create understanding, presence does. Integrity does. Consistency does. When you live from a place of deep peace, you no longer react to every provocation. You no longer rush to correct every misconception. You no longer need to defend your decisions to those committed to misunderstanding you. Peace teaches you to choose your battles wisely, and more often than not, to walk away from the ones that are not worth your energy. It is important to remember that peace is not something found outside of yourself. It is something you cultivate moment by moment, choice by choice. It is born from the decisions you make about what you value, who you allow into your life, what thoughts you nurture, and what dreams you pursue. And once you have built that peace, it becomes one of your most valuable treasures. You do not have to explain your peace because peace is a sign of mastery. It signals that you have shifted your focus from external noise to internal truth, that you are no longer living for the applause of the crowd, but for the quiet satisfaction of a life aligned with your values. Closely tied to peace is the understanding that real self-worth is quiet. True confidence does not shout. It does not demand to be seen. It does not need to be constantly affirmed by others. Real self-worth is a steady flame that burns within, regardless of who notices or applauds. When you know your worth, you are not easily shaken by criticism or inflated by praise. You see both for what they are, fleeting opinions, not defining truths. You become rooted in something deeper, something unshakable. You trust yourself. You value yourself, you respect yourself, even when the world offers you reasons not to. There is a profound power in moving through life without the constant need for validation. When you trust your own voice, external approval becomes a pleasant bonus, not a necessity. You no longer contort yourself to fit others' expectations. You no longer perform for acceptance. You simply are. And in that being, you become magnetic, drawing the right opportunities, the right people, the right experiences into your life. Real self-worth does not announce itself. It is recognized by its fruits, by the way you carry yourself, by the choices you make, by the boundaries you set. It is seen in the way you respect yourself when no one is watching, in the way you stand firm when it would be easier to conform, in the way you choose authenticity over acceptance. True worth is built in the quiet moments, in the unseen work, in the private victories that no one else applauds. It is built when you keep promises to yourself, when you act with integrity even when it is inconvenient, when you honor your values even when it costs you. It is a slow, steady construction, not a grand performance. As you grow, you realize that you are not here to convince others of your value. You are here to live it. You are here to embody it. And in doing so, you teach others how to treat you, not through demands or declarations, but through the quiet strength of your example. When you live with peace and real self-worth, you move differently. You are no longer easily pulled into chaos. You are no longer desperate for validation. You are no longer swayed by every opinion or trend. You walk your path with quiet confidence, knowing that your worth is not up for debate and your peace is not up for negotiation. This is the power of growing from the inside out. This is the life-changing gift of choosing peace over noise, self-worth over performance, authenticity over approval. It is a quieter path, but it is also the stronger one, and in the end, it leads to a life not just of success, but of significance.